And my parents had to kind of escape to send me to university. I'm not certain I absolutely appreciated the extent at the time, but I realise now, and it was an absolute fantastic thing. And in these days, it was free education and full grant for someone like me. And that's not the case now. We have free education in Scotland. We've got bursary grants, which are superior to them. We've kept the educational maintenance allowance, which helps children from particularly deprived backgrounds to have an income to stay in education. It's been scrapped south of the border, but I understand just how tough people can find it in terms of the expense. In terms of the finances of Scotland, I can argue this about the GERS figures, the general expenditure revenue account for Scotland, if you want. I can point out that we've been £8 billion relatively better off than the UK over the last 5 years. That's about, what, £1,300 a head or something. But, maybe this is about common sense. For each of the last 33 years, the average taxation paid in Scotland has been higher than the UK average. Every single one in the last 33 years. That's true. Right? But, do you really think, let's take the two main characters in the nose side. It's not Alistair Cameron, incidentally, or Douglas Alexander. This is David Cameron and George Osborne. These are the two main strategic planners of the No campaign. Now, I don't think, if I was honest, that David Cameron is actually thinking too much about finances in terms of his attitude to this. He actually told me he didn't want to be the Prime Minister who lost Scotland as George III lost America. Which I thought was interesting. Like, Scotland's this sort of property you can lose or find or whatever. But nonetheless, you can see what he's talking about. He didn't want to kind of be remembered his political legacy as the Prime Minister who suddenly lost Scotland, mislaid a country, sort of stuff. No. And I think this is really the thing that exercises David Cameron more than finances. But it's quite different with George Osborne. If George Osborne could lose Scotland, he would do it tomorrow. This is it's a calculating machine of a chancellor, is George Osborne. Yeah. So if we accept that he's not actually interested in the romantic notion of the political damage of losing Scotland, as David Cameron is, why is George Osborne so anxious to hold on to it? If we were this poor wee subsidy junkie, if this poor wee thing that had to be nourished and cherished by the Conservative Party at Westminster, would they be wanting to ship us off? Say, well, good, we'll privatise them, like we've privatised everything else in this country. Let's just get rid of them. The logic would tell me that George Gordon's interested in Scotland for the resources that this country has, which are very, very substantial. It doesn't mean that we'd have the 3 tariffs, but it does mean that in terms of the rich man's club, the OECD, we have 40. The Financial Times pointed out that an independent Scotland being the world's top 20 nations in terms of wealth. It doesn't mean you can finance everything. It doesn't mean you can have free education and everybody gets a full grant as it used to be, but it does mean you can say that education is a basic right and should be free for people, and people shouldn't go into the working life burdened by 20, 30, 40, 50,000 pounds a debt, and that's what we've done. We want to be careful that this is a rich country, and I hope and believe will also want to be a decent society in terms of understanding what really matters. And in terms of this gentleman and correcting me about the number of businesses who signed for yes, you're quite right, Business for Scotland is 2,500 members, I think, is the latest count. I think that's a great thing, we've been having this debate 10, 15 years ago. We'd have had the whole array of the business establishment, the CBI, actually they did, didn't they? Think back. 1979, the CBI told us that if we voted for devolution, then Ravenscraig and Linwood would close. We didn't get the Parliament, and Ravenscraig and Linwood closed. In the 1990s, the CBI and some of the great financial institutions in the insurance market told us what a disaster it would be if Scotland had its own parliament. We got our own parliament, and we've had the best relative economic period for a century in Scotland compared to the rest of the United Kingdom. So I just say that I think the same organisations that were wrong the last 2 times were probably wrong. But you see, in these debates, there wasn't the balance on the other side. What I think is so encouraging and what is so wonderful, not that everybody agrees, not that every single business person thinks the same way, but there's something this and there's something that, and we can judge what they say and see which of these businesses is actually interested, not just in their own bottom line, but also in the welfare and of the country, which is what impressed me about the Yes Business letter. I look at this debate, and the thing I understand is that we have somebody, I like racing. Racing is one of my vices. I like with the horses. The thing I like about the horses is it's a sport that captures the interest of every single strata in society. Everybody from Her Majesty the Queen, who absolutely adores horse racing, to the punter in the local hills of Orlando. This is a sport which actually captivates the interest, for good or ill, of a whole spectrum of society. What I really like about this referendum campaign is that there's a whole society engaged in this debate. And the Yes campaign isn't the Scottish National Party. And it's not me, it's not Nicola Sturgeon, it's not anybody else, it's no individual, it's no one person. The Yes campaign is a spectrum of people who are actually arguing that this country has the wherewithal and the wit and the intelligence to do a better job of running itself than anyone else will. That